When you think about who really shaped our modern world, especially with electricity and radio, you probably think Edison, maybe Marconi, right?
Those are the big names, definitely.
But what if I told you there was this other electrical genius, almost forgotten, who literally dreamed of giving the world unlimited energy? A guy they called Nikola Tesla, the master of lightning.
That's exactly who we're diving into today. And look, we're not just retelling his story. We're really digging into, a lot of sources to pull out the crucial insights about his life, his incredible inventions.
Which were truly revolutionary.
Absolutely. And his struggles, too, which were surprising. And this legacy that's everywhere, but often not credited to him.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to give you the shortcut, to get you properly informed about this guy whose impact is, well, it's in your remote control, it's in neon lights, fluorescent lights, x-rays.
Even things like guided missiles, believe it or not. Aspects of the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI.
It's huge. So you're about to find out how this one man, this kind of modern Prometheus, really did change everything with electricity. Let's get into it.
It's quite a story.
Yeah.
And it kicks off, fittingly, with an electrical storm. He was born right around midnight, July 9th, going into the 10th, 1856, in what's now Croatia.
Wow.
And yeah, the story goes, this massive lightning storm was raging right then.
You can't make that up, can you? So poetic. Now, his father, Milutin, he was a Serbian Orthodox priest, had plans for Nikola, right? All right.
Yeah.
Clergy or the army.
Yeah, very traditional paths. But Tesla, well, he just wasn't interested. Not his thing at all.
So was there something else pushing him towards inventing? Something in the family, maybe?
Definitely seems like it. His mother, Duca, she sounds like the real influence there. Very intuitive. She was an inventor in her own right, apparently. Made tools, devices, wove these really complex patterns.
Oh.
They used to say she could tie 3 knots in an eyelash. That kind of practical skill, that sharp observation, you have to think that rubbed off on young Nikola.
Okay, that's fascinating. A hands-on inventor mom. And Tesla himself, early on, he started having these, intense experiences, didn't he? Vivid images, flashes of light, almost like hallucinations.
He did. He called it an affliction. Made it hard sometimes to know what was real, but these visions, they also sparked ideas.
How did people around him react to that? And did it, give him a different way of thinking? An advantage, maybe?
That's a really good question. It suggests that for him, imagination wasn't just thinking about things. It was almost like living them. He could build and test machines entirely in his head.
Wow.
So yeah, what he called his affliction, it might have actually been his superpower, turning a potential hindrance into this amazing creative tool. We know he heard about Niagara Falls once.
Yeah.
And instantly pictured this giant wheel powered by the falls. Told his uncle, one day I'll go to America and do that. Amazing foresight.
It really is. Then at 17, disaster strikes. He gets cholera.
Yeah, a really bad case. Nearly died.
And this is where it gets dramatic. His father, seeing him suffer, thinking it's the end.
Makes a promise. A desperate one.
Right. Tesla, even on his deathbed, basically says, hey, I might pull through if you let me study engineering.
And his father agrees. Promises him the best engineering school.
And Tesla recovers like a miracle. Another Lazarus, they said. That's quite the turning point.
It really is. Talk about seizing an opportunity. It shows his incredible willpower, even then. And it set him firmly on his path. Destiny, maybe?
So he cheats death, gets his father's blessing, and off he goes. 1877, age 21, Graz, Austria, college, engineering.
And he dives right in. Becomes obsessed with electricity. Said every spark made 1,000 echoes in his brain.
And this is important because Michael Faraday, back in 1831, had already figured out electromagnetic induction, right? Generating electricity from changing magnetic fields.
Exactly, which meant alternating current, AC, was possible. But everyone was focused on direct current, DC. Early DC motors needed these sparking connections, which were messy, inefficient.
So Tesla sees this and thinks, wait, AC could make generators and motors way better, he tells his professor.
And the professor basically laughs him out of the room, in front of everyone, calls it a perpetual motion scheme.
Ouch. Talk about discouraging. What does that say about how open science was to, radical ideas back then?
Well, it shows the resistance, doesn't it? AC seemed impossible, like breaking the rules. But for Tesla, it wasn't just tweaking things. It was a whole new way of thinking about energy. That dismissal probably just made him more determined.
It sure seems like it. So 1880, he's in Budapest working for the telegraph office. But this AC motor idea, it's stuck in his head, right? Haunting him.
Completely. He described having these incredibly intense senses around, then hearing a watch ticking rooms away, feeling train vibrations from miles off. He started taking long walks to cope.
And were those heightened senses like part of his process? Did they somehow lead to the breakthroughs?
It seems very likely. It's like his brain was overloaded with input, trying to process it all. The walks probably gave his subconscious the space it needed to connect the dots.
And then the breakthrough. The lightning flash moment. In the park.
Exactly. Late afternoon, sun setting. The idea for the AC motor just hits him. He drops to his knees, starts drawing in the dirt right there.
No way!
Yes. He suddenly saw this whirling field of energy, realized he could create it by powering motor coils in sequence, in phases, like pistons in an engine, but electric.
Making the rotor spin.
Making the rotor spin, the electrical equivalent of the wheel, he called it. All using alternating currents. It was the conceptual leap that changed everything.
Proving that professor spectacularly wrong, and he saw it all in his head first.
That was his gift. He could visualize these incredibly complex things, see them working perfectly, before he built a single part.
So he's got this massive idea. What's next? Europe wasn't buying it.
Nope. He tried, but no takers. He figured Thomas Edison in America, the famous inventor, he'd understand, he'd help.
Right. So he heads to New York, June 6, 1884. He's 28, arrives with, what was it?
4 cents, literally 4 cents in his pocket, after a crazy journey involving a mutiny, no less.
Wow. But he had something valuable, right? A letter.
A crucial letter.
Yeah.
From Charles Batchelor, an Edison associate. It said, "My dear Edison, I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." High praise.
Incredible introduction. But New York already had Edison's electricity, his DC system, Pearl Street Power Station, backed by J.P. Morgan.
Right. But DC had problems. Big ones.
Like what exactly? Why was Edison so stuck on DC?
Well, you couldn't easily change DC voltage. Generate it high enough to travel far, you'd fry the light bulbs. Generate it low enough for bulbs, you needed these ridiculously thick, expensive copper wires for any distance. Massive power loss.
So Edison's fix was?
Just build power stations everywhere, like every mile or so. Not exactly efficient or scalable, but Edison had built his whole business on it. He wasn't about to admit it was flawed.
Okay, so Tesla shows up, thrilled to meet Edison, ready to show him his amazing AC motor.
And Edison hires him. But to improve Edison's DC stuff. Generators, motors.
And there's that story about the $50,000, right?
Yeah, Tesla claimed Edison promised him $50 if he succeeded. Tesla works like crazy, pulls it off, goes to collect.
And Edison just laughs.
Yep. Says, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Just dismisses the whole thing.
Oh, man. How did Tesla react?
He just picked up his hat and walked out. Done. That moment really defined their relationship, didn't it? Edison, the ruthless businessman. Tesla, the idealistic inventor.
It really shows the difference. Edison playing games, Tesla taking promises seriously. That must have stoned.
Deeply. It set the stage for everything that came next.
And what came next wasn't pretty. He ended up digging ditches for Edison's company.
For a whole year. Bitter tears and hard labor, he called it. Digging trenches for the very DC cables he knew were inferior. But he never gave up on AC.
How did he get back on his feet after that?
Incredible persistence. He found some investors who actually saw the potential in his AC ideas. They helped him set up his own lab on Liberty Street, practically neighbors with Edison.
The comeback. So he starts building his AC system there.
Exactly. The motor he dreamed of, plus all the generators, transformers, everything needed for the system we basically still use today. Amazing resilience.
So by May 1888, he's ready to show the world. He unveils the motor. He's confident.
And he should have been. Over the next few years, he gets 22 U.S. patents for all the AC components. These were considered the most valuable patents since the telephone.
Huge. But not everyone was thrilled, were they?
Definitely not Edison. But one person who did get it was George Westinghouse, the industrialist from Pittsburgh.
Right, Westinghouse. He saw the potential.
Immediately. Visits Tesla's lab, sees the motor, and basically offers him $1 million on the spot for the patents, plus royalties $2.50 for every horsepower generated using his tech.
$1 million in royalties. Tesla must have thought he'd finally made it.
It looked that way. Fortune and fame seemed right there. But Edison wasn't ready to concede.
Ah, the war of the currents. This is where it gets ugly, right? Edison launches this whole smear campaign against AC.
Vicious is the word. Called AC unnecessary and dangerous. It went way beyond business rivalry. It became almost personal for Edison.
He started publicly electrocuting animals to prove AC was deadly.
Yeah, dogs, cats, even a circus elephant named Topsy. It was brutal. Trying to scare the public. An associate even suggested using AC for the electric chair.
Which they did, didn't they? That awful execution in Auburn prison.
1890. Horrific. Multiple shocks, reports of the body catching fire. Tesla was appalled, called it barbarous and inhuman. Edison was weaponizing fear.
This whole battle comes to a head at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, doesn't it? The Columbian Exposition. First fair lit entirely by electricity.
That was the showdown. General Electric, which was Edison's company, merged with another. They bid $1 million. Westinghouse, using Tesla's AC system, underbid them significantly, around $500,000, and won.
A massive win for AC, but GE tried to sabotage them.
Oh, yeah. They refused to sell Westinghouse any light bulbs. Westinghouse needed thousands for the fair.
So what happened?
Panic. But Westinghouse scrambled and invented a new kind of two-piece bulb just in time, saved the contract, and gave Tesla this incredible platform.
And what a platform! May 1st, 1893, President Cleveland flips the switch.
And the whole place just explodes with light. Brilliant tube lighting, colorful searchlights. Unlike anything anyone had ever seen, it completely captured the public imagination.
And Tesla himself was there, doing demonstrations to show AC wasn't scary. The egg of Columbus's.
That, and more dramatically, he'd let thousands of volts pass through his own body.
Seriously?
Yeah, holding lamps that would light up, or melting wires in his bare hands, surrounded by sparks. Mark Twain apparently loved participating in these.
Whoa, that must have blown people's minds, especially after all the negative press from Edison.
Exactly. It was theater, but it proved his point. AC could be controlled, it could be safe, and it was spectacular.
So that childhood dream of his, harnessing Niagara Falls, the World's Fair made that possible.
It was the key turning point. Remember Lord Kelvin, famous physicist, head of the Niagara Commission. He'd initially warned against the gigantic mistake of alternating current.
Right.
But after seeing the Chicago Fair, he completely changed his mind. Awarded the Niagara contract to Westinghouse and Tesla's AC system.
That's a huge endorsement from someone like Kelvin.
It totally shifted the tide. Kelvin was established, and his approval basically meant AC had won the scientific and industrial argument. The demonstration was just undeniable.
So they set out to build it. Huge generators, right? 5,000 horsepower each.
The biggest ever made at the time. Huge technical challenge. But they did it. 1896, the system goes online. The electrical age begins.
How did it work, basically?
Water turbines spin the generators. Transformers step up the voltage way high, 22,000 volts, to send it long distances efficiently. Then other transformers step it back down for cities, factories, running Tesla's motors.
And the local people declared.
The Niagara Falls Gazette. This morning, the streetcars of this city are moving by Falls power. Hereafter, the Falls must work to earn their living. Fantastic line.
Love it. Soon they had 10 generators, power reaching New York City, 360 miles away. The War of the Currents was officially over. Tesla won.
He absolutely won the war. But maybe not the peace, financially speaking.
Right. That story about the royalty contract, Westinghouse was in financial trouble.
And the story goes, though, some historians debate the details that Tesla tore up his contract, the one giving him $2.50 per horsepower.
Which would be worth, what, today? Trillions.
Astronomical amounts. Whether he literally tore it up or just agreed to forego the royalties, it fits his pattern, doesn't it? Genius inventor, not so much a businessman.
His focus was already elsewhere.
Completely. He was convinced energy could be sent without wires. He didn't really need Westinghouse anymore, so he went back to his experiments. High-frequency electricity became his obsession.
And around this time, he's also becoming quite the social figure in New York, right? The most intriguing bachelor.
Oh, yeah. Hanging out with the super-rich Astors, Vanderbilts, Mark Twain again at Delmonico's, the fanciest place in town, always impeccably dressed. Derby hat, white gloves.
Quite the character. He thought whiskey would help him live to 150.
Apparently so. But he also had all these phobias, didn't he? Hated jewelry, perfume, touching hair, shaking hands.
Kept people at a distance, especially women.
Seems that way. He even claimed he'd destroyed his sexuality at 40. Though he admitted feeling lonely sometimes, his work was clearly his main focus, maybe his only real focus.
So, back in the lab, he's working on high-frequency electricity, inspired by James Clerk Maxwell.
Right. Maxwell's mass showed light was electromagnetic radiation. Tesla takes this and invents the Tesla coil.
Okay, what exactly is a Tesla coil?
It's basically a special kind of transformer. It ramps up voltage to incredibly high levels, but at very high frequencies. That's what creates those big dramatic sparks. And crucially, it transmits a radio signal.
The same device he used for those shocking demonstrations, lighting lamps in his hands.
The very same, showing electricity could travel through the air, even through him, safely at high frequencies.
And he developed early neon and fluorescent lights, took the first X-ray photos.
He did, but the real aha moment was in 1890. He lit up a vacuum tube in his hand with no wires attached.
Wow.
For him, that was proof. The first evidence that I was transmitting energy through the air, that set him on his lifelong quest for wireless power.
A total epiphany moment, and the timing was critical, because the race for radio was on, wasn't it?
Heating up fast. Heinrich Hertz in Germany had shown radio waves existed back in '88. He built the first transmitter and receiver. But just proving waves exist isn't the same as building a communication system.
You needed something more. A leap.
And Tesla provided it. He had this intense vision about his mother dying. Very disturbing for him. But it somehow convinced him that his Tesla coils, if you tune them precisely, tuned them to resonate at the exact same frequency, like tuning forks, then they could send and receive really powerful signals. Tuning, he realized, that was the secret, the key to all radio and television transmission. He built a new coil that could generate 1,000,000 volts.
Incredible. But then, disaster. March 1895.
The 9th of March, yeah. A fire. Completely destroyed his lab, everything. All his work, his notes, his equipment, gone.
Devastating. And that gave an opening to Marconi.
Exactly. Guglielmo Marconi, this young Italian experimenter. The fire set Tesla back massively, just as Marconi was making progress.
But Tesla didn't quit. He raced to rebuild, filed his radio patent in September 1897.
He did. That patent basically covered the fundamental tech for radio. But it took 50 years for him to get the credit officially.
50 years? Why so long? Marconi's system worked, but wasn't Tesla supposed to be much better, more efficient for tuning and broadcasting?
It was. But Marconi was faster to commercialize, brilliant at publicity, and had better financial backing. Plus, the fire delay and the later legal fights. Marconi just got the narrative locked down first, even though he used many of Tesla's core ideas.
That fire seems like it changed him in other ways, too. He got into Eastern philosophy. Swami Vivekananda.
He did. Started seeing the universe differently, as this grand symphony of vibrations and waves. It really fed into his obsession with resonance. It's fascinating how his spiritual side and science intertwined.
And that obsession led to some wild experiments, like shaking his building.
Oh yeah, 1898. He hooks up this small mechanical oscillator to an iron pillar in his lab building, starts sending timed pulses. The whole building starts shaking, windows breaking nearby. He's so engrossed, he doesn't notice until the police burst in.
What did he do?
Smashed the oscillator with a sledgehammer just in time. Told the police they just missed something interesting.
Unbelievable. There's that story he thought he could split the Earth if he found its resonant frequency.
That's the apocryphal tale, yeah. Shows how central resonance was to his thinking. Cosmic harmony, finding the right frequency.
Meanwhile, Marconi's sending signals 5 miles. Tesla needs to respond.
And he does, spectacularly. 1898, Madison Square Garden. He unveils the world's first radio-controlled device.
The little boat.
The little boat. In a pool, controlled wirelessly, it blinked lights, moved rudder, propeller. It even seemed to answer questions. Someone asked for the cube root of 64.
And it blinked 4 times.
Exactly. People were astonished. It looked like magic. But then, he patents it as a weapon, an armament for war.
That's a weird turn, from magic trick to weapon of war.
It is strange. His rationale was that if war became too destructive, maybe nations would just give it up entirely, make war obsolete through technology.
Mark Twain wanted to help sell it.
Yeah, Twain saw the potential for a destructive terror. But Tesla pushed back. Said he didn't want to be remembered for destruction, but for abolishing war. A noble goal, but maybe naive. Highlights that tension in him.
What a vision, though. So, next stop, Colorado Springs, summer of '99. Secret experiment.
Very secret. He set up this experimental station way out there, hung a sign from Dante's Inferno. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here.
Dramatic. What was he studying? Lightning.
Yes. He saw lightning not just as a spark, but as electrical power being transmitted through ionized air. Air becoming a conductor.
And he built that massive Tesla coil there, the magnifying transmitter.
His biggest ever. 145-foot antenna, giant copper ball on top. His ultimate machine for global wireless power.
And he tested it.
Oh, did he ever. Yeah. One night he cranks it up. Huge streamers of electricity shoot out, artificial lightning bolts over 100 feet long. The sound carried for 20 miles.
Whoa. What was the result?
He blew out the local power station's generator, plunged all of Colorado Springs into darkness. People were terrified.
Can't blame them. But he kept going, detecting signals.
He did. Late one night, he picks up these strange repeating signals. Beep, beep, beep.
Beep, beep, beep.
1, 2. Exactly. He became convinced it was a message from another planet. He even wrote to the Red Cross about it. Brothers, we have a message from another world.
How do people react to that?
The press ridiculed him, of course, called him crazy. But modern experts think he might have actually been the first person to detect radio waves from space. Natural signals from stars or the sun,
Yeah.
way ahead of his time again.
From ridicule to pioneer of radio astronomy. Incredible. So he comes back to New York in 1900, gets funding from J.P. Morgan.
$150,000.
Yeah.
Huge sum. For what Morgan thought was a worldwide radio broadcast center.
But Tesla had a secret plan.
His real goal, worldwide wireless power transmission. He starts building this enormous tower on Long Island, Wardenclyffe, Tower of Dreams.
His ultimate vision taking shape. But then Marconi succeeds in sending the letter S across the Atlantic, December 1901.
Big public success from Marconi. Tesla just scoffed that Marconi was using 17 of my patents, which was largely true, actually.
But it made Morgan nervous.
Very nervous. Morgan was a businessman. He invested in radio communication because he saw a way to make money, sending messages.
And Tesla's real plan.
When Tesla needed more cash, he had to confess it wasn't just about messages. It was free wireless power for everyone.
How did Morgan react to that?
Pull the plug immediately. How do you put a meter on free power? There's no business model for Morgan. It was pure science, pure vision from Tesla, but completely impractical financially for his backer. Word got out or the Wardenclyffe was doomed.
Did it ever actually work? People saw lights?
Yeah, 1903, locals reported bright lights, strange atmospheric effects like the aurora borealis around the tower. But he couldn't make it work efficiently over distance. The power just dissipated too much.
He was heartbroken, wasn't he?
Utterly. It is not a dream, he wrote. It is a simple feat of scientific electrical engineering, only expensive, blind, faint-hearted, doubting world. Wardenclyffe's failure was a massive blow, the end of his biggest dream.
And things just went downhill from there. Patents lost.
The hits kept coming. 1904, the U.S. Patent Office reverses itself, gives the radio patent to Marconi. 1905, Tesla's original AC patents expire. Anyone could use his world-changing inventions for free now.
So he ended up penniless.
Penniless and rejected,
Yeah.
financially ruined, and apparently just totally uninterested in the business side of things anymore.
He really became the forgotten man then, living in isolation, feeding pigeons.
Sadly, yes. That became his routine, spending hours in Bryant Park feeding the pigeons. He called them his sincere friends. Such a huge contrast to his earlier fame.
And when Marconi won the Nobel Prize in 1909...
Tesla was furious, reportedly called Marconi a donkey. He sued for patent infringement, but just didn't have the money to fight Marconi's corporation. Had to give up.
Then that bizarre incident in 1915. The New York Times announces he and Edison are sharing the Nobel Prize.
And then a week later, nope. It goes to someone else entirely, William Bragg.
What happened there? Rumor was Tesla refused to share it.
That was the rumor. Who knows the real story? But the pattern continued. Recognition dangled, then snatched away. And he was still broke, living on credit.
It's just relentless, isn't it? Breakthrough setback, breakthrough setback.
It really is. They tried to honor him in 1917. The American Institute of Electrical Engineers gave him the Edison Medal.
Kind of ironic, the Edison Medal.
Extremely ironic.
Yeah.
They had to track him down, found him feeding pigeons by the library, persuaded him to accept.
And his acceptance speech.
He announced he'd finally perfected wireless power. Claimed it could create an effect like the aurora borealis anywhere on Earth. The audience just didn't buy it, thought he'd lost touch.
Oh, that's sad. And he lashed out.
Yeah, railed against small-minded and jealous individuals, called them microbes. He was living in hotels, dependent on friends, bringing injured pigeons back to his room, finding more comfort with birds than people.
Watching movies just to see futuristic ideas that resembled his own.
Yeah.
But only accepted in fiction. What a lonely existence.
Then in 1924, these rumors surface about a death ray he supposedly invented back in Colorado.
A death ray. Did he confirm or deny it?
He stayed quiet, let the rumors fly. Around the same time, he started attacking Einstein's theory of relativity. Said it was taking science the wrong way. He really stuck to his own unique view of the universe.
But he had a brief moment back in the spotlight for his 75th birthday.
1931, yeah. Time magazine put him on the cover. Einstein sent congratulations. He felt rejuvenated.
And announced another invention.
Called it Teleforce, a man-made form of lightning that could knock planes out of the sky. It actually showed up in Superman comics.
A beam weapon. Did he try to sell it?
He did. Pitched it to the UK, the Soviets, the US, Yugoslavia, but he demanded money up front, just like with Morgan. No deals ever happened.
He had that quote about needing stations to protect Yugoslavia.
9 stations. 4 for Serbia, 3 for Croatia, 2 for Slovenia. Protect the homeland. But even his own people thought he was just a crazy old man by then.
Such a tragic decline. And then the accident in 1937.
Hit by a taxi at 81. Broke 3 ribs, never fully recovered. Westinghouse, to their credit, stepped in and paid his hotel bills for the rest of his life. A small gesture for the man who'd done so much for them.
He died alone in his hotel room, didn't he? January 7, 1943, age 87.
He did. But Mayor LaGuardia gave this incredibly moving tribute on the radio just days later. Said Tesla died in poverty, but he was one of the most useful and successful men who ever lived.
And the final irony. 5 months after he died.
The U.S. Supreme Court finally ruled on the radio patent case. Overturned parts of Marconi's patent, confirming Tesla had priority for the fundamental radio technology.
Vindication, but only after he was gone.
Exactly. But the story wasn't over. The FBI got involved, worried about that death rate. Yeah, World War II was on. They seized all his papers and belongings, worried about potential weapons. His technical notes on beam weapons were secretly microfilmed by military intelligence.
Sent to right field for Project Nick, looking for defense against nukes.
That was the idea. But then the papers reportedly just vanished. Very mysterious.
Straight out of a spy thriller, what happened to his estate eventually?
It was returned to Yugoslavia in 1952. But then, 1960, Soviet Premier Khrushchev boasts about a powerful new Soviet weapon.
And the U.S. worries the Russians got hold of Tesla's vanished papers.
That was the fear. It kicked off a new American beam weapon program at Lawrence Livermore. The Cold War gave Tesla's wilder ideas a whole new relevance.
And even Reagan's SDI, Star Wars in the 80s, that drew on Tesla's concepts.
Absolutely. The idea of a defensive energy shield, beam weapons to stop missiles that owes a debt to Tesla's thinking. Whether those weapons are truly feasible is still debated, but his ideas kept resurfacing.
So his ideas, even the really out there ones, had this long, strange afterlife in military tech. What about the big dream? Wireless power.
Well, look at the HARP project in Alaska, beaming microwaves into the ionosphere. It directly references a Tesla patent from 1987. They explore using the upper atmosphere as a giant circuit. Some even speculate about weather modification, though most experts dismiss that part.
But transmitting power wirelessly, is that happening now?
In a way, yes. Using microwaves and satellites. There are concepts, even small-scale demonstrations, of generating power, say, from natural gas in Alaska, converting it to microwaves, beaming it up to a satellite, and then down to a special receiving antenna, a rectenna, maybe in Japan, to convert it back to electricity.
That sounds exactly like Tesla's dream, realized through different technology.
Essentially, yes. His vision is finally becoming reality, piece by piece. His impact is just staggering when you look at it all. Lighting, power grids, radio, remote control.
All while fighting these huge battles, dealing with crushing setbacks, ending up broke, even though his ideas launched billion-dollar industries.
It's incredible. He had that great quote, didn't he, about the scientific man.
Yeah. The scientific man does not aim at an immediate result. His work is like that of the planter for the future. His duty is to lay the foundation for those who are to come and point the way.
Perfectly sums him up. He was unique. There's so much you can learn from how he thought, how he created, how he just kept going. His vision was just so far ahead of everyone else.
So it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Right.
What does it mean that this master of lightning saw technologies, dreamed up things that we're only just now starting to really understand and build?
Yeah.
And what else might be out there waiting for us to figure out how to, as he put it, attach our machinery to the very real work of nature?
That's the question, isn't it? What's the next big connection waiting to be made?